Okay, this is the third lecture of the 5-lecture program, which has been introduced in lecture 1. And this is also the first lecture which is devoted to applications after the mathematical backgrounds which have been delivered in the first 2 lectures. Actually, these lectures, which has been organized by myself with the collaboration of Diletta, Burini and Nisrine, Outada, is the first step towards the modeling of the virus pandemics, I mean the COVID-19 virus, in the presence of mutation, variants, and vaccination program. And this is the main topic, actually, of our lectures, because all of them will be related in one way or another to this topic. So we know that unfortunately COVID-19 has affected our minds, health, well-being, and everything. But in positive, we have discovered that science is a primary wealth to respect and preserve also against these aggressive. So why we can find in La Peste by Albert Camus, something not the same is completely different, the story, but there is an analogy of humans who need collaborating against the aggression of the virus. So we have some references. The first one is the initiative of the Royal Society about the promotion of a voluntary group which has been studying for some time the in-house modeling, and the group was coordinated by Mark Chaplin, a colleague and a friend of mine. So we produced in this framework 2 papers, both of them are open access. The first one, which is indicated here, is about the pandemics, about the modeling the pandemics in accounting for the heterogeneity of all entities which are involved, and in the fact that we live in a globally connected world. The second paper, also open access, is about mathematical tools, mainly focused on the mathematics for living. Before initiating, I would like to just to mention 3 key points. I really believe this is very important, at least in my personal opinion. First of all, that mathematicians cannot take the modeling problem by a standalone approach. Actually, the interdisciplinary vision is absolutely necessary. Second item is that modeling approach should go far beyond the deterministic population dynamics, as the system we are dealing with, we are tackling, is not a population dynamic problem. It has heterogeneity, mutations, variations, and several things, several features which are typical of complex systems. And then finally, the multi-scale must be is a necessary feature of the mathematical approach. Multi-scale, well, we must go from the molecular scale of genes to the scale of cells, and then that continues of tissues, organs, and individuals. So maybe that this flow chart helps to understand what I mean for the systems approach, which where several interconnections play the game. We have the healthy people, which can be subject to the vaccination program, but also to infection dynamics by short-range contacts, say in family, closed venue, squares, in a crowd in some cases, and long-range networks related to transportations. The infected people go to the red area, the infected, and where the game starts. The game is the competition between the proliferative virus and the immune system. One wants to expand the virus, and the immune system wants to defend the individual which is affected by the presence of this not desired guest. Then maybe necessary to have hospitalization, where different type of cares may be necessary, say normal care, but also advanced intensive cares. And the end of the story may be hopefully to recovering of the individual or, unfortunately, the death. So I will not go into a more detailed description of what is happening in each block. I have put them in the slides 3.5, 3.6, and 3.7. The researcher who is interested to develop a research activity on this topic, then he can read the slide and then move to the papers I was mentioning, I have introduced before. Because it is very technical, involves biology, mathematics, probability. Of course, probability is also mathematics, but different branches of mathematics converge to the modeling approach. So I will not enter into the description of the blocks, but I have given a description, an essential one, which moves from the healthy situation to the infected one, and then to the competition. So what is important is to look a little more deeply about what is happening in the in-host dynamics, namely in the lung, in some cases not only to the lung, and say the dynamics is that the virus proliferates by taking advantage of the food delivered by the tissue of the lung. So it's destroying actually the lung. The immune system identifies the presence, learn, if we use the mathematical term, the presence of the guest, and then fights against the virus. And it may be successful or not. But what is important to say is that the defensibility is not a universal biological quantity, is very individual, is heterogeneously distributed in the population. And within the lung, inside the lung, the two fighters have an internal variable which models their activity, the negative one of the virus and the positive one of the immune system. So the mathematical structure is the one which has been presented in the second lecture, and we have learned in the second lecture that we must implement the mathematical structure by models of interactions. Actually, the mathematical structures is generated by the idea that in the case of living systems, we need a structure which is a carrier, potentially carrier of the complexity features of the living system under consideration. So we take the structures and we move to the modeling of interactions, and we have the interaction rate, namely the intensity of the rate of interactions, and the transition probability into higher, more advanced progression or less advanced progression. To make you more clear this description, then I prepared these figures. This one shows how the immune system, which has an activation ability, which is here indicated by the parameter gamma, acts over the infected individual and succeed in reduce his progression. So it may be an advanced progression of the virus, which is reduced up to the low infected level, which basically means recovering. The opposite way is done by the virus, which increases the level of infection of the individuals. So it has a negative actions. So well, the story is quite long. Once more, I say, I give the essence, but the detailed calculations are very specialized, may be of interest for those who want to develop research activity in the field. So we have 7 populations which interact. And since I don't like the name population, and since the mathematical theory presented in the first selections use the terminology functional subsystem, I will use a functional subsystem. So we have the functional subsystems which play the game: healthy, vaccinated, infected by the primary virus, but infected also by the second variant, by a variant. Individuals who after vaccination are infected by a variant, and individuals which are infected by the virus and recovered, etc. So now we should give, I will not give this detailed of calculations. I only say something very important. The vaccine has the property of increasing the defense ability of the immune system. The immune system is in any case not a full winner. Simply makes the immune systems more powerful and reduces the ability of the virus to proliferate. So if an infected person is vaccinated, he has the ability, also if infected again, to contrast the virus, while this is much more difficult for those who have not been vaccinated. So all detailed calculations, namely vaccination program, dynamics of vaccinated, dynamics of healthy people, in-host dynamics inside the host, and so trained to recover, trained to death, give the mathematical model. What can we say about the mathematical model? What can we say? Well, first of all, we have to say that mathematical models are not keen to give quantitative predictions. They can give important scenarios. The important scenarios are those with the relevant scenarios are those which can help the crisis manager to take the good decision. So I will focus my presentation with a key aspect of the problem. A key aspect is the role of the locking, or say, of the social distance in the passage from the first wave to the second wave. Actually, doesn't mean first, doesn't mean the primary wave, the one we had more than 1 year ago, but the wave now, and the subsequent wave is the wave we are, for instance, we are expecting now. We are in the fourth wave from the third wave. And after the fourth wave, we may have the fifth wave. So in the passage from the third to the fourth wave, the social distance, if the social distance is not sufficiently protective, we can have a subsequent wave much worse than the first one. Say, alpha is the parameter which models the social distance. 0 means full isolation. 1 means we don't believe that the virus exists and we don't care about it. Or 2 years ago, we were not aware of that. So we were not caring. If we have an improved control, namely we weaken the second, the distancing parameter, then we can have an improved situation. An improved situation means that the second wave is weaker than the first one. Can be also very weak, but be careful. This doesn't mean that the virus disappears. The virus is always there. The virus will disappear one day only and only if the number of vaccinated people will be very high, all distributed perfectly in the world, and then we may hope that it will disappear. Otherwise, it will stay there, ready to start again when either the effect of the vaccine weakens or simply people don't care anymore. They lose their awareness. So what happens about the variants? What happens about the variants? Well, the variants are actually, they arrive in probability, in the sense that it is a reproduction mistake of the virus. The daughter virus or son virus, we doesn't really care about this matter in this moment, makes a mistake. The mistake in the DNA reproduction, and then it is a transcription actually, Well, if this mistake is negative, then that virus will disappear. If it is positive for is, namely is more reproductive, then the variant becomes dominant. As we see in this picture, we have the onset of the variant, then the variant is weak during the first wave, then in the second wave grows and becomes dominant to the first one. Why? Well, because in probability the number of interactions increases and the variant survives while the first one we by time weakens its ability. Not only that, unfortunately, we should take into account that the variant may have also a different aggressivity features which are not fully understood for the moment. But why the vaccine? Well, the vaccine weakens these dynamics. Namely, if the population is subject to vaccines, then all these dynamics weakens in the sense that the ability of the variants, I don't care anymore of the primary virus. Where an aggressive variant starts, then becomes dominant. Then in this case, it is like increasing the aggressivity of the immune system and then weakens the presence of the variants, weakens but never put it to zero. This is the main problem. So we have decided to investigate this topic, and actually we do not have a systematic study of all the possible scenarios which can appear, but we are working on that. And in these two papers, you will have several interesting scenarios about mutations and variants, the dynamics with variants, and in this one, how the vaccination program weakens all the dynamics I was mentioning before. What is important is that all simulations show that only one action is never sufficient. Say, I cannot control everything with the social distance, and I cannot control everything with the vaccination program. Well, every mathematician has also a soft spot for his own or her own model. So when I saw that in some countries, for instance, England, there was the full freedom, we are vaccinated, I was worried because my model shows that this is not so true. The vaccination is active also if accompanied by a reasonable social distancing. Now we are aware that this is what we are living in these days, because the fourth wave is starting again and is more aggressive, where the distancing action has been neglected. So what we more or less I have said everything. We look forward to have a systematic study of these complex dynamics. It is a rather complicated dynamical systems, and we have to to study everything, equilibrium, asymptotic behavior, if the case, some bifurcation. This is a matter that should be, hopefully, I hope it's some young researcher will develop it. So actually, just to mention, the two co-workers of these papers are a young person. So I hope they will work on this matter. So just to conclude, I wish to mention that sometime someone says, well, this pandemic has been a black swan. No one was taking good care of this matter because it was not in the provision. This is not true. This nice, beautiful article appeared on the New Yorker journal. Then the author explains that this situation is a portent of a more fragile global system. We live in a fragile system, and in these fragile systems, things like a virus pandemics can occur. In this system, we have against that research activity. Research activity in an interdisciplinary vision, and in this interdisciplinary vision, we fight against the virus, but we cannot even forget that research is a fragile system itself. So we must, as far as it is possible, protect research activity. And in this framework, in this fragile framework, we should keep in mind, bear in mind, in our mind, that social system distance may become a way of thinking and living in our society. Well, the next lecture, all devoted to this topic, will treat different aspects of the modeling and simulation by different methods, and I have just introduced the topic on which the next generation of researchers will definitely be involved in next years. Thank you.